We wanted a heavy-handed story about political messaging that gets forced down our throats when we really just want to go see a good old-fashioned comic book movie. Thank you, James Gunn. And here it is from Variety. James Gunn says Superman is about an immigrant that comes from other places, how we've lost the value of basic human kindness, and yes, it's about politics.
Recently, talking about his Superman movie that has come out, things like this, where he says that his film is about politics, an immigrant that comes from other places, and the kindness we have lost. Of course, as Americans, apparently we have lost our kindness, guys. And this, of course, is followed up by what his brother said recently as well, where his brother Sean Gunn says film is pro-immigrant, and if you don't like that, you're not American. Now, of course, he tried to walk back these comments after he realized that he was facing a lot of backlash for the things that he was saying about this.
Could the new Superman movie be the most disastrous superhero film ever created? That question isn't just hyperbole anymore. What began as internet murmurs has now erupted into a firestorm of criticism, debate, and confusion. This long-awaited reboot of one of pop culture's most revered icons has arrived, and the results are nothing short of polarizing. While some are hailing it as an avant-garde reinvention, many others are left stunned, wondering, how did one of the most beloved fictional heroes in history become the centerpiece of such a cinematic storm? This isn't just about a movie. It's about the changing face of modern storytelling.
Days away from the release of Superman at the box office, James Gunn's Superman, of which he has been front and center in so much of the marketing for this movie. And there's been some missteps. There's been some criticism. You know, Superman is a character that's been around for nearly a century. So virtually everyone knows who he is, and virtually everyone has an opinion on how he should be portrayed. So, of course, there's been some very divisive marketing for the movie, shying away from saying truth, justice, in the American way in every way that
audience expectations and the power of cultural narratives. From the opening frame to the final credits, something felt unmistakably off. Audiences came in expecting to see a beacon of hope, a hero who soars above chaos, both literally and metaphorically. Instead, they were met with a Superman who spends most of the first hour grounded, consumed by personal struggles, emotional outbursts, and what some describe as a nearly constant state of frustration.
James Gunn confirms Superman is about politics, immigration, and the decline of American kindness. Says screw them to jerks who get offended by that. Yes, thank you, James Gunn. This is what we wanted. We wanted a heavy-handed story about political messaging that gets forced down our throats when we really just want to go see a good old-fashioned comic book movie. Thank you, James.
This wasn't the poised, confident figure generations had grown up with. This version of Superman was a man seemingly lost in his own narrative, wrestling with doubts, fear, and confusion. While introspective storytelling can add depth, here it seems to have replaced the very essence of the character. Viewers have been left asking, is this really the Superman we know? Or has he been reshaped into something completely unrecognizable? The plot does little to offer clarity. According to early viewer reactions, instead of presenting a structured linear story arc with a clear beginning, middle, and end, the film plunges into experimental territory. The central storyline reportedly revolves around a pocket wormhole universe that traps Superman in an alternate dimension, effectively removing him from the main narrative for much of the film.
Superman, on the other hand, is like the Flash times 1,000. I can't really put it into words if you haven't watched this movie. There's no structure, there's no writing, there's no acting. The CGI is terrible. There's so much comedy, it'll make you want to pluck your own eyes out. Every time Superman even comes close to doing anything that's anyway good, he just gets knocked over by a dog.
In his absence, secondary characters dominate the screen, and the film ventures into increasingly abstract themes. A surreal version of Lex Luthor appears in this universe, allegedly delivering monologues aimed not at Superman, but at the audience itself, particularly those expressing disapproval online. One moment in particular, where Luthor refers to online critics as keyboard warriors, has been interpreted by many as a direct jab at real-world fan discourse. Is this an artistic flourish or a sign that the creators are speaking through their characters in a more personal, perhaps defensive, tone? This suspicion is further intensified by the film's deliberate entanglement with contemporary political themes. Many viewers have pointed out that characters and plot points seem designed as analogies for modern-day figures and issues.
There's lesbian girl bosses running around. There's an emphasis on Gen Z and TikTok for some reason. Superman is whining for the entire movie. His voice is so high-pitched and the dude never stops screaming and being autistic. I don't know how I can say it anymore. This movie is the most retarded thing to ever exist. Genuinely, I've watched a lot of movies from many different countries, time periods. I'm not bragging here. I'm just saying that I know that Superman is probably in the top 3 worst of all of them.
For instance, Lex Luthor has been widely perceived as a symbol for divisive political ideologies, reflecting public personas known for controversy. Whether intentional or not, this creative choice has sparked fierce debate. To some, it adds layers of relevance and urgency. To others, it feels like an unwelcome detour that distracts from the timeless qualities Superman stories traditionally embody. A recurring complaint involves the film's embrace of current youth culture, specifically Gen Z humor and TikTok-style pacing. This approach might resonate with younger viewers, but for a significant portion of the fan base, it represents a jarring tonal shift. They came expecting a timeless epic, and were instead met with what some describe as a mummified version of a classic hero. Add to this the inclusion of several new supporting characters who seem designed to embody various social archetypes, and the film begins to feel more like a cultural statement than a superhero adventure. Representation, diversity, and modern themes are all valid narrative tools, but when not woven seamlessly into the story, they risk appearing performative. Critics argue that this Superman film crosses that line, leaning into messaging at the expense of emotional immersion. The redistribution of screen time also raises eyebrows. Superman, the titular character, is often sidelined in favor of newer additions like Mr. Terrific and Jimmy Olsen. Reports suggest Mr. Terrific receives more lines and more central plot importance than Superman himself, sparking debates about whether the film is really about the Man of Steel at all. Jimmy Olsen, portrayed with an eccentricity bordering on parody, is described as socially awkward yet inexplicably magnetic to other characters. Some found these portrayals fresh and bold. Others saw them as symptomatic of a movie that had lost touch with its core hero. Even minor characters are curiously elevated. A convenience store clerk and a taco vendor reportedly play pivotal roles in the unfolding drama, a narrative choice that has left many puzzled. While inclusive storytelling and unexpected heroes can add depth, critics argue that these characters' outsized influence feels forced. What purpose do they serve in the broader Superman mythos? And does their prominence signal an attempt to reshape the narrative structure altogether? The controversies don't stop there. Perhaps the most startling moment comes in a scene where Lex Luthor allegedly launches into a meta-commentary about online critics, describing them as keyboard warriors who don't understand art. This dialogue, interpreted by many as echoing sentiments from the film's real-life creative team, has struck a nerve. Is this merely a clever script choice, or does it reflect a deeper disconnect between filmmakers and the fan base? Some see it as an inside joke, others as a defensive lashing out at valid criticism. Either way, it has intensified the perception that the film is just as much about its audience as it is about its hero. Technically, the film hasn't escaped scrutiny either. For a production of this magnitude, the visual effects have come under surprisingly harsh critique. Entire sequences, particularly those in the climactic act, are being described as overstuffed, incoherent, and visually jarring. CGI, once a strength of superhero cinema, here becomes a distraction. Instead of elevating the spectacle, the effects reportedly undermine it, with many pointing to inconsistencies and unfinished-looking designs. Viewers expecting high-octane cinematic action have instead labeled the final act a CGI overload that fails to inspire awe or emotional payoff. Then there's the humor, a staple of James Gunn's filmmaking. Known for his sharp wit and offbeat tone, Gunn's comedic style can be polarizing. In this Superman film, many feel it leans too far into self-aware, tongue-in-cheek territory. Gags that might have worked once or twice are reportedly repeated to the point of exhaustion. A recurring joke involving Superman being knocked down by a dog is cited as a prime example. What begins as a light moment reportedly devolves into a tired routine that breaks the tension and undercuts the drama. The attempt at humor, critics argue, often comes at the expense of tone, making it difficult for viewers to fully invest in the stakes. And yet, in the online landscape, things appear oddly rosy. Audience scores on major platforms like Rotten Tomatoes are curiously high, hovering well into the 90s, which seems at odds with the wave of negative buzz from both fans and critics. On the professional side, outlets such as Empire and The Guardian have given the film low marks, with reviews calling it messy, unfocused, and emotionally hollow. This discrepancy has led some to speculate whether these audience ratings are entirely organic. Are we witnessing genuine enthusiasm, or are the numbers being swayed by overzealous fans or marketing strategies focused on select positive aspects, like the fan-favorite pet crypto? The film's socio-political themes only further complicate matters. Scenes involving fictional nations locked conflict have been viewed by some as metaphorical reflections of real-world geopolitical tensions. While never explicitly named, parallels have been drawn to ongoing disputes in regions like the Middle East. Critics argue that these allusions, while subtle, are unmistakable, with one side depicted using overwhelming force and the other shown as a sympathetic victim. Whether intended or not, this narrative framing has opened the door to interpretations that may alienate portions of the audience. James Gunn's own public statements about the film have also added fuel to the fire, describing Superman as an immigrant who came from another world and emphasizing themes of compassion and understanding. Gunn framed the movie as a reflection on modern society's need for empathy. While many find this message inspiring, others view it as a political statement wrapped in a cape. In today's climate, even the most well-meaning themes can spark division, especially when they intersect with cherished, long-standing mythologies. And in the background of all this, conversations have reignited about the once-rumored Black Superman project from acclaimed writer Ta-Nehisi Coates. Reportedly shelved for being too focused on social issues, that version would have explored Superman's identity in the context of the civil rights era. Its cancellation, juxtaposed with the release of this heavily politicized reboot, has reignited questions about representation, narrative priorities, and studio direction. In the end, this new Superman film is more than just a movie. It's a cultural flashpoint, a mirror reflecting the current tensions, aspirations, and contradictions within entertainment and society at large. It asks bold questions, takes significant risks, and in doing so, has deeply divided its audience. Is this the bold reinvention that superhero cinema needs? Or is it a cautionary tale of straying too far from the values and spirit that made Superman an icon in the first place? One is undeniable. This film has made an impact. Whether it becomes a misunderstood cult classic or a controversial footnote in cinematic history, it has reshaped the conversation around what we expect from our heroes. As debates continue to rage, one truth remains clear: the Man of Steel may never be seen the same way again.